So my name is Anna-Katrina Shedletsky. I'm CEO and founder of Instrumental. We're hosting today. And I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about me, if you don't know me, although many of you do. So I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and I went to Stanford, very close by. And I was always fascinated by this idea of perfect engineering. As engineers, that's like a thing. Getting the perfect answer, the perfect product, having it work perfectly. And so I was frankly attracted to go work at Apple because I thought they built perfect things. As we all know, because we come from many companies that also build things, building perfect things is not possible. And Apple doesn't do it, but nobody does it because it's really hard. And part of the reason is because we build in environments like this, where there can be tons of errors injected at any given time. And so this was kind of the inspiration for my going to Apple. I was there for 6 years, worked on a variety of products, and then started Instrumental to build technology to try to make it better. But I think we're one of the unique spaces where actually it's gotten harder to build product than it was even when I started. It certainly seems like it has. And the reasons are because the products themselves are getting smaller, more complex. Instead of being a product in your backpack, now you wear it on your wrist. And that complexity adds risk and reduces margin. Quality expectations are increasing. Customers look at Amazon reviews. They buy the 5-star blender, not the 3-star blender. You don't want to be the 3-star blender. That's a problem. It's a top-line revenue problem. In the old days, you used to send stuff to TechCrunch and Gizmodo and CNET, and they would review it, and only those units had to be perfect. But now even onesie-twosie failures in the field can actually cause top-line revenue issues. User influence is very heavy. Quality expectations are increasing, but also the ability of customers to share their experiences also. And then, of course, competition. Seems like there's companies everywhere always trying to do whatever it is your company is trying to do. And so getting to market fast is incredibly important. So the people in this room, before we kind of get started, we're going to get to know each other a little bit. Hopefully it's not too kitschy. I think it'll be fun. We do some ridiculous things to do this job. And we've all got our war stories, and I try to think of a way to kind of share war stories in a group of 100 people. And so I thought we might raise our hands. So this is a quick game. It won't last that long, I promise. But raise your hand if the statement applies to you. Raise your hand if you've discovered an unexpected issue after you started rank. All right, that's like everyone. Okay. Raise your hand if you booked a flight less than 24 hours before the departure time. Okay, maybe like 80%. Raise your hand if you fixed a problem and saw it come back again. Why does that happen? Okay, this is my favorite. Raise your hand if you inserted either an unplanned build or an X for fingers crossed, VT build in your schedule. Okay, yeah. And last one, which I think will get 100% participation. If you have a ridiculous story about how your team had to do something crazy to save the build, the launch, the ramp, whatever it was. I've got one where we bought Sharpies from every single Costco on the West Coast. Okay. I think the core thing here is it's kind of funny. We have kind of weird jobs, right? We don't choose to work this way. Nobody would choose this. It's kind of fun to have the cocktail hour stories, and this is a group that will appreciate your stories. But the job is always messy. Why is it so messy? I think that's silly. And a lot of these problems actually are dollars and cents problems too. You experience them personally, but the business experiences it financially. And actually these problems are much bigger than many of us, if you don't sit down and actually start adding up the numbers, then you realize. And in electronics in particular can be up to 25% of every dollar spent in manufacturing. Which is crazy because we all just moved our supply chains in the last 18 months because of tariffs. This is the same size problem, and generally it's not being worked on. The scale comes from various places, and we'll hear a little bit more. We have someone speaking later today to share a little bit more about this. But it comes from things in MPI, like mistakes and experiments. It comes from wasted time. It comes from where you get on the plane and there's no parts to build, the line down. It comes from scrap and rework. We all know nobody ships at 100% yields. And we also know that rework is hit or miss and generally lower in its actual success rates. And then we all have returns, sometimes more than we'd like. And if you actually add this up, inclusive of the full supply chain, you easily get to 25%, maybe as much as 30 or 35. We'll see the numbers later today. So why is that the case? Well, I think the core problem is we don't know where the problems are. We don't know where they are. We're working on these lines where there's humans that are injecting errors and changing, there's shifts in process constantly. And even when we do discover where the problems are, we don't have good tools to fix them. So how have other industries besides manufacturing solved this problem? We live in Silicon Valley, there must be a solution. And the solution that other industries have used is business intelligence software. What is that? Well, essentially it's three basic things, like this is the primer in business intelligence software, like Tableau and them. They collect data, they transform it, so you take days and you put in hours and all of that to make sure it all lines up, and then you present it in some way. And so what does that mean? It's dashboards. It's like, sounds complicated, it's dashboards. But if you think about manufacturing, dashboards would certainly be better than nothing, and a lot of organizations have nothing. So this is like a step up. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in our space to do a lot more than like a dashboard like this. So I'm kind of meh on dashboards, and I think we can do something better. So I want to talk about how we can change some of the kind of core elements of business intelligence software, use the fact that we're doing manufacturing, and actually get a better result. So this is completely collect, intelligently transform, and contextually present. And if you do those things, if you modify them a little bit, you can actually close loops. And that's what we're here to talk about today. That's this concept of optimization. And so completely collect, what does that mean? It means that you collect data at any point where you're actually looking to collect data, you grab all of it. You don't just sample, because then you'll get cherry picking and the data won't be good. So if you're gonna measure something, you've gotta measure it 100%. That's the completely collect. That could be images, it could be test station data, it could be a bunch of different things. It could be process data, but you gotta collect all of it, otherwise the rest of it won't work. You then need to intelligently transform it, and the opportunity in manufacturing is we have constant data streams. We should be constantly looking at that data. We're busy, so instead we should be writing algorithms to look at it. It could be fancy stuff like AI, it could be math, it could be spreadsheets, it's fine, but we're essentially looking to do more than just line up hours and days. We're trying to actually do something intelligent with the data. And then I think this presentation piece of the dashboard needs to be elevated to be contextual, because the work that we do is so physical in nature that you got to be close to the product. And so if you're looking on a dashboard, it can be harder to understand like exactly what's going on. But if you're actually able to look at your defects in the context, or as an example, but of course, or look at process shifts in the context of where those process shifts are happening, then you have this contextual presentation. And when you put that together, you can close loops, not just around one process, but around the entire supply chain. And that's the opportunity that we talk about when we talk about optimization. And so when you combine these things together, that's manufacturing optimization. This is a nascent field today that's growing. And by the time we have Build Better next year, there'll be multiple companies up here presenting how they are optimizing using these kind of 4 elements of a manufacturing optimization system. So we can build better. The tools have arrived, they're arriving. There's multiple companies providing things on the market today. And choosing not to use them is choosing to keep raising our hands. So hopefully next year, we'll have fewer hands in the air on some of those items. So today, there's kind of 3 reasons for today. One is we want to understand the challenges that we face. And so actually the first part of our content today is about those challenges in really like tactical and practical terms, brass tacks, not generalization, trying to get specific. Sharing information from others who have benefited from optimization, so like real case study use cases, what people have done, and what the results were, and then the opportunity to network with your peers. So our event content is actually less than it will end before 6 o'clock, but we're going to be here for extended time to have a happy hour afterwards, so we hope you stay to join us. Here are the speakers for today. So again, the first half is about challenges. So Mikhail from Bain will talk about how his clients view these inefficiencies. Andre from ONTAP will talk about his personal and professional experience with essentially production nightmare scenarios and how to avoid them. We're going to have a chat with Milo and Ron. We're going to actually talk about how contract negotiations, while that's not something that generally the folks in this room do, but how that affects your job and maybe incentivizes your manufacturing partners or the company you work at to not actually improve things. And then we're going to have some case studies. So Marco designed one of the coolest lines in the world, I think. And he's going to talk about that from Valve. Paul is here to talk about case studies at John Deere and the Department of Defense. And I'll be sharing a story about Motorola mobility. So it's going to be an exciting day. Because we have a lot of content, we've biased towards content. We may not have time for live questions after every speaker. So our speakers have already graciously agreed to answer all of your questions. If we do have time for live questions, we're going to pull them off the form that's here, so you can go here on your phone. If you have questions, you can type them in here. We will follow up with all of our speakers, and we will post the content publicly, the answers to all those questions. Does that make sense? Great. So let's get started.